as always, my main man, Jay, at FantasyJ77 on Twitter, over on the right-hand side of your screen. How we doing today, Jay?
If we could get some heat in the air anywhere in this world right now, global warming is really setting in. I see. No, I'm doing pretty good. We are going into the semifinals for fantasy football, and I'm kind of stressing out. I've got out of the 20-ish leagues that I have, 11 of them made it to the playoffs. Right now, I am sitting with 8 left in the playoffs after week 1 of the playoffs, and I'm feeling pretty good about most of them. Feeling pretty good. I had 4 buys, so now I had a couple of teams that I didn't even have to play anybody last week and just kind of sit back and relax. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I was still nail biting because I was like, who am I playing? That kind of thing. Getting ready for this week, trying to get lineup set, and then the news comes out that there's going to be no clear weather at all anywhere that's playing football. We're going to have bad weather this weekend, so that's phenomenal news. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I am also at Devin Deal on Twitter for everyone following in. Yeah, I had some bye weeks last week. I had the most devastating one is my home dynasty league, which is my original dynasty league. I made it in. I was the third seed, so I didn't get a bye. But like my team, had it pretty good. But I did lose like Damian Pierce right beforehand, which he was only a flex starter for me. But I got a whopping 1.1 points out of Pat Fryermuth, Dante Foreman, and Miles Sanders. So thanks, guys. All 3 of you guys really sealed my fate there in my fantasy league this week. So that kind of sucks, especially because I have a nice little feud with the guy that I was actually playing. So he's he's a buddy, but we always give each other shit all the time. And he beat me 137 to 86. So I've been taking a lot of shit this week.
Yes.
So and it was just brutal, man. I was just like, guys, really, this is what we're doing. Like, Fryermuth didn't even have a target. Like, it was just terrible. Which, I have Goddard in that league, so Fryermuth was just my backup. That's the only reason he was in. Not like I said, Dante Foreman was only in for Pierce. So it is what it is, but not a great way from that's my favorite league just because it's my original dynasty league and it's all my buddies and stuff. So, but still looking good. I still got a decent amount. I think I have 8 teams in currently out of my remaining 12 total. So looking pretty good. I had about 4 bye weeks last week as well. So sounds like both of us know what we're doing, hosting a dynasty show. Maybe we actually, kind of have this thing, figured out a little bit.
No, I'm not going to say figured out because it's dynasty. Everything changes on a daily. So let's not jinx ourselves by saying we have it figured out because that's not happening. I'm not doing it. I'm not riding that train.
Yeah, just for the fans. Yeah, we totally know what we're doing, but we all know the truth. We just, we're getting lucky out here.
That's right.
But,
that's exactly right.
But yeah, so welcome into the show, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Going forward, we're into the playoffs for every single type of format of fantasy going forward. So I think we're going to be, a little bit shorter on the episodes. We're still going to give you all the information you need, but just with so many players injured at the moment, quite frankly, and a lot of the teams getting ready to start resting some of their players as they make a push for the playoffs. There's going to be less and less content to actually talk about on a weekly basis. So, going forward, we will have, a little bit of a hiatus. I think, we're still working out the details of what we're doing, but we'll let you know every week what the plan is. So with that being said, we do have tonight's game. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the New York Jets, over under 37.5 with Jacksonville at -120. So just quick thoughts. We'll dive into this a little bit later, but what are your quick thoughts on tonight's matchup? Not a great fantasy, heavily involved with a lot of fantasy players, but it's still to be pretty good. The Jags have been looking pretty good lately. The Jets have been surprising this year. So what do you think about tonight's matchup?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a common theme, across most of these games. Tonight, anything that's up north, Cleveland, any of those games. This is going to be a very, very common theme going through this week is going to be the weather.
Yeah.
From one of the Twitter followers, the Twitter that I follow, and get a lot of the weather information from, is Is Kevin Roth. It's at Kevin Roth WX on Twitter. Definitely a great follow. He does some great work with the weather. And he updates it a great bit. So his last tweet, he's got another tweet going to be coming out here just before kickoff, I believe. But he said, don't think you should panic and swap out your best players that are in New York right now. It's not great. It's going to start mostly dry. Heavier rain, moving into the second half is where it's going to be. But the biggest problem is going to be the wind. The sustained winds, I want to say, are somewhere, 15 to 20 miles an hour, gust, 30 mile an hour, potentially 40 miles an hour later on. So what that tells me is that, it's going to be a rush the ball game. And so when I'm looking at that, I jump over to like what underdogs got. Right now they're sitting with like Travis Etienne at 70.5 rushing. That number, if it's going to be a solid rushing game, that number seems a little bit low. Right before we came on, we got the alert that Zonovan Knight is going to play tonight. He is suiting up and is going to be on the field. And again, his numbers for rushing is 63.5. So, I mean, I do like those. And that tells me those numbers are a little bit lower than what I think they can be because, the Jets defense is nice and powerful. They've done very good against the pass as well as the run this year. And we saw where, the Jacksonville Jaguars to start the year was very, very good. And then they just kind of came back to earth quite a bit. So it's going to be an interesting game. I don't see it being a high scoring game.
Right.
Something. I think the over under was like 33, 34, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, 37.5.
37.5. So yeah, it's not a I don't think there's going to be a ton of scoring. And I think, hang on one second. Let me the dog is over here whining. The scoring that's going to happen is going to have to come on the ground via touchdowns. I don't think you're going to get a lot of field goals with the wind that's going.
Yeah, they're probably not even going to attempt too many long ones either. That's, I think most of the time, I think most teams are comfortable about 55 yards, depending on the kicker. You're probably not going to see that tonight. You're probably going to see, okay, we actually need to make it to the 25-yard line before we send our kicker out there instead of like the 35 or something like that. So, you're definitely gonna shape the game a little bit with some of these field goals that are probably, gonna be a little bit restrictive tonight on what they let their guys attempt. So it'll be interesting to see that because both of these kickers, I wouldn't say, are top notch either.
Yeah, hang on one second. Kevin Roth, again, Kevin Roth WX over there on Twitter just tweeted out. He said, I hate to flip flop a bit, but they got about 2 hours before the heavier rain comes in. So it's likely going to be in the first, back into the first half because it's looking like it's pouring pretty good up there in Philly right now.
Yeah, so there's definitely a big front heading their way. And, like most of the U.S. right now, it's pretty cold out there. So it's going to be not their best, it's going to be football weather. That's what we got tonight,
I don't, football weather has white stuff falling out of the sky. And I know about that, but, football weather does not have a lot of wind involved in that. I don't classify wind as football weather. That takes away from the game.
Definitely. And, like with that being said, too, some of the injuries tonight. So Cam Robinson, tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Knee, he is out. And then for the Jets, you have Mike White, Denzel Mims, and Corey Davis. Mike White, just with those terrible rib shots that the Bills placed on him, just fracturing multiple ribs. That guy's a trooper, man, getting back in that game when he did. But understandably still out. I'm sure that's a terribly painful injury, especially if you're getting knocked around as a Jets quarterback. And then Denzel Mims and Corey Davis, like I said, both have concussions. So neither one of them have been major contributors this year, but that's what you're dealing with when you're talking about the Jets. And then, just some other news and notes from the week, still sticking with the injuries here. So Jonathan Taylor officially on the IR, done for the year, capping off his terrible season. Not terrible, I guess, but definitely you didn't take him 101 to get the season you got from him. So just, bad for everyone that's made it to the playoffs despite his play, hoping that he will, contribute in some form, but he's done for the year. So we actually got news that Hurts and Lamar Jackson are both not going to play this weekend. So it looks like it's Minshew Mania time, and I do believe it is still Huntley. That will be, which is weird. I don't know. Do you know just a little sidebar. Is his nickname like Snoop or something?
I saw that today as well. And the way I understood that was, I guess Harbaugh called him that in like a presser. Was like, yeah, we're just gonna roll with Snoop Huntley today or this weekend.
Okay, because I was like Snoop Huntley, because there's that Snoop. Was it Snoop Connor or something
Snoop
like that?
Connor. Yep, Snoop Connor.
Yeah, out of Jackson Jaguars. So I was like, okay, maybe there's another Snoop that's a quarterback that has the same last name. Like that'd be a little weird, but I was like, I don't know who this is. So it's kind of weird that I got the notification actually be Snoop. But yeah, so they're still going to be rolling with Huntley then.
Yeah, it's his alter ego, Snoop.
Right. But yeah, just some, just those two right there, man. Those are devastating injuries. The fantasy playoff team, especially Hurts and JT.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, JT wasn't being the best, form of himself, but still, it's a solid lineup. If you throw him into your lineup, have that running back position, see what he can do for you. And then Hurts obviously is an MVP candidate this year, so definitely.
Can you imagine the manager out there he's got to be pulling his hair out if he had three of these four, Lamar Jackson, oh God, I just lost it. JT
Hurts?
and not Hurts. Oh Lord, Murray, Kyler Murray.
Oh yeah.
if you had those three as your starting, and especially in a super flex, you lost both your quarterbacks and your starting running back, which you probably spent high draft capital on. So it's if you've got any of those guys, you're just that's gotta suck.
We got drop the mic FF saying
What's
hey,
up?
so hey, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. So yeah, let's back to the Hurts thing. I actually have him in the Superflex League and carried me through a bye last week, and now my reward is I don't get a start in this week, and my only other quarterback on that team is the Jets quarterback himself.
The MILF hunter?
Yeah, so not a great, going from Hurts MVP candidate to the opposite of an MVP candidate as your starting quarterback in a Superflex League, and I have no other quarterback to start. Not looking good for the old number one seed over here. So
yes.
Probably going to be pretty painful for me this week in that league. So, but some other news and notes. So Khalil Herbert on the Chicago Bears activated off IR. Same with Goddard on the Eagles. He's activated. He's ready to go. And Kenny Pickett is going to start this week for the Steelers. And I did see also that Chase on the Commanders has been activated as well. It's the first time since Chase Young. Since I guess I need to clarify since there's Jamar Chase out there. Yeah, Chase Young is activated, and he's going to be making his season debut coming off an ACL injury from last year. So a lot of some good players coming back. Like I said, Kenny Pickett. If you have to start him in a pinch, I guess you are here in the playoffs. Goddard should be a big help, and guess we got to kind of see what happens with Herbert. I mean, you never know with the Chicago Bears. Justin's found his footing. And then Montgomery's been decent and serviceable, just as always. I mean, he's always been a pretty solid running back. So don't know if they're going to ease him into the game plan or just let him eat. So what do you kind of think about some of those guys there?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Chase Young is going to be able to do. He's been out for such a long time. And he's going to be going up against the likes of Christian McCaffrey and that sort out there in San Francisco. The other one that I'm interested to see how much Goddard helps, especially having Minshew, who hasn't played all year. I mean, you can't expect him to play because you had Jalen Hurts. So, but that offense, to me, that offense is so good. And that offensive line is just as good. They're a top 3, top 4 offensive line. I think they'll be able to withstand a little bit. And I think, surprisingly, Minshew's going to have a decent game. So I'm looking forward to that game. It's in Dallas, so that should be fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see what he can do. I've always thought he's been a decent quarterback. I think a lot of people think he's, pretty solid. I think he's one of the better backups now. It could be, starting for a handful of teams, I would say probably. But, he's always been a pretty accurate, passing quarterback, always has a really high completion percentage, stuff like that. So with A.J. Brown and those guys in there, you just need to get the ball in their hands. You don't really got to be trying to make these elite passes or anything like that.
Yeah, and I know it's coach speak when they say it, but yeah, Sirianni did come out this week, and one of the things he said was we need to, we missed opportunities to get Sanders the ball, and we need to get him more involved. And I'm like, okay, well, that's Miles Sanders does not want you drafting him for your fantasy team, but Sirianni sure does want you to play him.
Yeah, Sirianni, you still cost me a matchup last week, so a little too late for me, but that's, I guess, another story. But some other notable injuries that we have going on, especially, for our playoff-bound players out here. Chris Olave is not going to play with a hamstring. It's a huge injury, huge loss for a lot of teams out there. Tyler Lockett hurt his finger during last week's game, so he got you some points last week, at least, to hopefully get you through to this round. But this week, you are not going to be able to play him. And then not really noticeable. I mean, a notable name, Claypool, but he's still going to be out this week. I don't think you're really depending on him at this point in the season. He hasn't really been dependable in weeks, but yeah, just some pretty bad injuries there. People are just dropping like flies. I mean, there's other injuries. Devin Duvernay also hurt his foot. He's on the IR. Caleb Huntley tore his Achilles. He's on the IR. So just a lot of injuries out there. A lot of stuff that's gonna hinder even who you can pick up on the waiver wire with some of these guys. So definitely have your work cut out for you to win the championship this year.
Yeah, one of the things was, we try to get a lot of these injuries in there, and we try to wait to the, as close to the showtime as we can. And normally Brian's there. Brian's taking care of some personal stuff tonight, so he wasn't able to jump on. But normally he's one that jumps in there and takes care of a lot of the injury list for us. So I was in there finish it off, and I'm going through them all, and I think, there's a lot of them that have, 10, 15, and you're talking offensively and defensive players. But I got to the Rams, and it read like an encyclopedia. There was so many names. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. The Rams, they've been bad, but they've been bad because they have nobody playing.
Right. Offense and defense, man. It's just talk about, most teams, they get the Super Bowl hangover, but these guys barely even had a chance, man. They've just been injured all the way throughout. And so, yeah, that's not too good for the defending champs. Like I said, they're not even going to make the playoffs this year. So, some interesting strategy you're going to have to deploy this week. Maybe some people you weren't planning on starting, you're going to have to start this week. I know there's a couple of these guys. I have Lockett in the league. I have Olave in another league. I'm in the playoffs in. Hurts, like I said. So I got some interesting moves I got to make as well.
The interesting one for me, going through the NFL and the injuries is going to be the Caleb Huntley. We saw over the last couple of weeks where Atlanta, which, absolute dumpster fire on the sideline for their coaching staff is. I just don't even understand what they're doing sometimes. But the putting him on the IR, that is going to Algiers is going to be stepping into that role. And honestly, they've been putting him as basically the RB1 in that on that team for the last couple of weeks. They've almost taken what the hybrid running back / wide receiver Patterson and phased him out a little bit of the running game. So I like Algiers, and I like the playing him this week, going up against I believe it's Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just double checking. I think it is Cleveland, but it's in Cleveland, and again, weather game. It's gonna be nasty. Right. So that's gonna be no, it's not Cleveland. New Orleans is playing Cleveland. They're playing Baltimore, but they're still. Let me see on my list here. I have. Yeah, it's still going to be windy, and maybe not as much rain, but it being on Saturday and all. But that's a quick PSA though too. I mean, we got the one game tonight, but we've got a full slate Saturday.
Yeah, complete opposite of last week actually, because we had 3 games Saturday and a full slate Sunday. We got a full slate Saturday, 3 games this Sunday. So a little bit. But I will say, now that we're talking about Tyler Algier as well, if you've been eliminated from the playoffs, I think he's a great sell now, especially on a dynasty team. They don't have a whole lot invested into him, so they could easily replace the running back position either by signing someone or trading or drafting someone. So, value is going to be really high, especially this week, going into this maybe looking like it's going to be a run-heavy game. So if I had any advice for anyone out there at Algier, I think now is almost the best time to sell high on him, get you some better ammo for the upcoming draft or anything like that, because I definitely don't think he's holding on to that job. I mean, he's not going to get cut by any means, but I do see them bringing in some kind of competition if I had to guess.
Yeah, the only way I'm just gonna pull his numbers right quick because I want to double check them. Yeah, he had a 49% of the snap share last week, 52 against Pittsburgh. So then they had the bye. They played Pittsburgh, had the bye. He got 49% snap share last week against New Orleans, 17 carries, 140 yards, 139 yards with a touchdown. He did get one target, caught the ball out of receiving work. And then you compare that to like what Patterson was getting, earlier in the year. I mean, Patterson still got 50% of the work in the backfield last week, but I guess he's not getting the long runs because he 14 for 52, so he did and a touchdown. So I think if they run Algiers and they get they've got this week and the next two if they're getting 100, if they get 103 yards against Baltimore and a touch, and then going into week 17 rather, and he gets another 100-yard game, 90-yard game. That game's against Arizona, which is very, very, very possible. And then the week 18 matchup against Tampa, if he gets 90 yards there, I don't know that they can. Atlanta as a team can sit there and go, yeah, we gotta find us a running back. No, I think you have one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, a lot of people are playing for their jobs right now, this time of year for next season, too. So, like I said, he's been coming on strong, but, I'm always looking down the road when it comes to running backs, especially ones that were drafted in late rounds like that. So, to me, if you can get some good value out of them, might as well take it as of right now.
No, 100%.
All right, so before we move on to stock up, stock down, we're going to get into Underdog Fantasy, promo code GF2. If you use that on Underdog Fantasy, you'll get a 100% deposit matchup up to $100. So you put $100 in, use GF2 as your promo code. They're going to match that $100, giving you a total of $200. So we've been running that one for a while. It's a great one. Get in there, use it, take advantage of it, and win some money. So with that being said, stock up, stock down. I'm going to kick it over to Jason with his stock up for the week.
Well, it's getting crunch time. It's I think almost all of these got to be low hanging fruit for the stock up. The stock down has been really, really hard, I think. But so stock up this week for me is J.K. Dobbins. 120 plus yards, back to back games, and then he comes out and says he's not 100% healthy. Can you imagine if he was 100% healthy? And I mean, we know he's not 100% healthy because when he breaks that 40-yarder last week, he just kind of looked awkward running the ball. But if he was 100% healthy, he's gone. That's not a 40-yarder. That's a 65-yard rush.
Right.
Because he was gone. But he's getting double-digit carries now, and he's out-snapping Gus Edwards since he came off the IR. Just talked about, Atlanta's run game up against Baltimore. Well, Baltimore, he's up against Atlanta in week 16 here, who, by the way, gives up the 7th most rushing yards in all of the NFL. That's crazy. So he should have another big game. And then week 17, he's up against Pittsburgh. I mean, it looks like the Ravens are going to have something to play for in Pittsburgh. So you could see him run another 100-yard game. He can finish the season with like 4 straight 120-yard games. And that would be absolutely amazing coming off of the injury that he suffered.
Right.
So that's my thought right there.
No, I completely agree. I've always been a big J.K. Dobbins guy, and really bummed out when he tore his ACL there and had a couple other injuries mixed in with that ACL. And yeah, like you said, he just, didn't have that breakaway speed that we've seen him have before. So as the weeks keep going, hopefully he finds that and looks a lot better. It looks about the way he does. We know these injuries take about, a little over a full year to fully recover unless you're, Adrian Peterson. But but yeah, I love that stock up. I think it's definitely trending that way, especially the running back situation with the Ravens has been a revolving door all season long. So looks like he's making his claim there now, if you will, for the time being. So with that being said, my stock up for the week is Brock Purdy. Again, kind of low-hanging fruit here. But, yeah, he's been looking real good in that system. I think he's a solid quarterback. I don't think he's going to break the doors off anybody with any of his, with any of his throws or anything like that. But 7 total touchdowns in 3 weeks that he's taken over. 1 interception. So 6 of those being passing touchdowns. Just pretty efficient with the ball, takes care of it, obviously, with not throwing the picks, which is the only thing you need on that offense. You got Christian McCaffrey, Kittle, everyone that we all know and love on that team. So yeah, Purdy just without being insulting, just needs to be a game manager, just do what he's doing. And yeah, it's hard to, especially right now with you have Hurts injured, some other quarterbacks that are being benched like Matt Ryan, stuff like that. If you were able to grab Purdy, I think you're feeling pretty confident this week and going forward. He's got Washington this week, Las Vegas next week, and Arizona to finish the season if they play that game, and if you have playoff implications of that week. Most leagues don't, but I know some leagues do. So pretty juicy matchups going forward, but he is my stocked up of the week. Like I said, low hanging fruit there a little bit, but he is looking pretty solid out there, and maybe there's going to be a quarterback competition there in the spring if he keeps it up.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think there's a lot to like about Brock Purdy. Did you hear Shanahan come out and say, I guess it was said earlier in the year that he couldn't wait for Brock Purdy, that 7th round draft pick, to get into games and see what he's got. And then, of course, you had the whole, the injury and the Jimmy G drama and all that on the offseason and stuff. And then he comes out there and does what he's doing. I mean, so question for you. Do you think is there any way Brock Purdy is going to challenge Lance next year for that starting job?
I will say I think they're going to give Lance every opportunity in the world to win that job and prove definitively that he is the guy going forward. I mean, they gave up 3 first-round picks to move up and take him. With that being said, I do know this preseason, at least it was being rumored that he wasn't lighting anybody up, wasn't really impressing too many people. We didn't get to see much of him at all this season before he got hurt, and it was in that terrible typhoon game early in the season with the Bears. So they're going to give him every opportunity to succeed. They're not going to give up on someone they gave up 3 first-round picks for. But, I mean, I think he's going to be on a short leash, I will say that. But I do think Lance is going to be your starting quarterback week 1 next year, barring any injury or setback.
Oh, and I agree 100%. But I also look at it and go, okay, Lance is going to be the starter. Now they can just say, okay, Jimmy G can go wherever.
Right.
Because now you have seen what this guy can do. And if nothing else, he's just as good as Jimmy G.
Agreed. Right. Yeah. You have a solid backup potential starter going forward. If you do want to give up on him, on Lance at least, I'm sure you're going to get some kind of draft return. You're not going to get 3 first-round picks, obviously, but you're going to get a decent return if you do want to move away from that. But, yeah, Lance is going to be the guy next year. They just have way too much invested, and these teams don't give up first-round picks like that and give up very easily. So with that being said, I'm going to keep repeating Jay and myself here that it's low-hanging fruit for this week. It was really hard on kind of the opposite end for stock down. I actually struggled quite a bit with stock down. I have been for a couple of weeks now, but I'm going to go with Tyler Higbee. Earlier this year, he was a pretty reliable tight end. Tight end's not very deep to begin with, but he was giving you solid numbers at the very beginning of the year. But he is basically unstartable now at this point, especially if you're in the playoffs. I don't know how you can be throwing him in your lineups with any kind of reliability, anything like that, because last 3 weeks he's had 14 yards, 11 yards, and 27 yards. And that's with him being on the field at least 84% of the time. So, I mean, he's on the field. He's out there doing stuff. But, Baker Mayfield, like we've all seen, he's just not the guy we thought he was going to be. Can't get the ball to anybody. But, I mean, if you're getting less than 27 yards from your tight end, probably need to look elsewhere. So, he is my stock down for the week. What are your thoughts on Tyler Higbee?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you because his numbers say that he's a stock down. I mean, he's getting the targets. He's, just last week, 4 or 5. The problem is he only had 27 yards, which I guess is not horrible. But,
right.
And what I guess what saved him was the touchdown, But that was the first touchdown all year. So there's but I mean, it's a tight end. So, I mean, it's get you a roll of quarters and start flipping them because you're gonna need that whole roll when you start putting these names out. So it's an ugly landscape in tight end right now.
Yeah, especially they got Denver this week, who's has been a pretty solid defense all year long. So I don't know if they've been that great against the tight ends, I will say, but at least their defensive unit on the whole is a pretty solid unit. So definitely, if you have a better option, a more reliable option, maybe someone with a little more upside, be looking elsewhere in your playoffs this week. So who is your stock down for the week this week, Jay?
Well, I'm going back to that. Like we said, we're getting low hanging fruit here, and I'm calling out on Marquise Brown right here. Just not been good. It has not been a good year for Marquise. When D Hop was out, he was okay. He gave us a couple of those 20-point weeks, a 28-point week in there. But then since D Hop's come back, and of course now Marquise was injured as well. But since D Hop's come back, and now Marquise is back and is allegedly healthy. I don't know, seeing a questionable tag on him now, so I don't know what's going on there. I have to go back and look, but he's not getting the targets. Kyler's not there no more. Now McCoy's gone with the injury, so now he gets Mr. McSorley out of Penn State, which is I found out last night that his is like his 74th year in the NFL. Age 29 already. It's like he just got in the NFL and he's so bad. But in the 3 games returning from his own injury, he has not even reached 50 yards receiving, which is, the old Hollywood Brown last year. With Huntley, playing quarterback, 50 yards, he was doing that in one play. He's not even getting close to that in the whole game anymore. And with McSorley being there, I don't think McSorley is going to throw the ball down the field. It's going to be more D Hop. He's gonna pepper D Hop with targets, in my opinion, if they even throw the ball a ton. And then the other one that I like in that offense, which is where I'm knocking Marquise down, is it Dortch? You look at his A dot, and he's 4 yards. It's dead on 4 yards, which is a perfect spot for McSorley to be throwing the ball.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't see him stretching the field with Marquise.
Yeah,
and they get Tampa this week, and that's going to be a bad matchup for him.
Yeah, and then not only that, but just Kyler's in danger of starting the beginning of the season next year too. So your outlook just on Marquise, especially in a dynasty format, not looking too great as right now. He's basically a flex option. So I don't think you can rely on him actually as a top 3 wide receiver at the moment. So he's still young. He showed flashes this year, but yeah, definitely stock down worthy for sure.
Yep.
So, all righty. So let's just keep it on rolling here. Like I said, if you did join us at the beginning of the show, it is going to be kind of a quicker, shorter Dynasty Gambit for the next couple of weeks, just because, it's just the way the season's playing out, all the injuries, everything like that. So we are going to get into who we think is going to win tonight, followed by the Chrome Dome parlay plays of the night. So let's just go ahead and kick it over to Jay. What is your prediction for tonight's game?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's going to be a lot of wind, a lot of rain. I'm not. The 37.5 is just too much for me, I think. I got to do math real quick in my head. No, 37.5 is just a little too much, just a hair too much for me. I'm taking Jacksonville 19-17, and I don't even know how they're going to do that without field goals.
Right. That's I have Jacksonville winning as well, and I'm just under the over. 37.5 is the over under. I have a 37-point total with Jacksonville winning 23-14 tonight. So not too confident with the Jets, especially given the quarterback position and the play he's shown over the this whole season, I guess, when he's been in. And Lawrence has been looking amazing. He looks like he's kind of turned a corner, figured some stuff out. Takes some of these guys a little bit longer sometimes, even the elite prospects like what Lawrence was. But he's been pretty impressive the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm having to change my thing because of the weather right now. So I'm working on that, but I'm with you on that.
All right, gotcha, no problem. So as he's looking to change some of his parlay recommendations for tonight, I will still go in and say just a little more on the whole Lawrence situation. The one thing that's kind of been a little perplexing to me, if you will, is they traded J-Rob to the Jets. So there's a little bit of if he even touches the field tonight, a little bit of motivation there for him possibly to have a good game. But with that being said, ETN has just not been too great the past few weeks. He started off looking just insanely good after they traded Robinson, was having 100-yard games, tons of touches. The only thing that's kind of odd to me too is just that, he's very involved in the pass game, at least in college. And they have not really utilized that at all. I kind of thought more that he would be used almost like a Kamara type where, you want to give him the rushing attempts, maybe, 14 times a game, give him, 8 catches somewhere in there and just see what he can do. So even with their success that they've been having, I'm kind of shocked that ETN has not been a bigger factor the last few weeks. So, do you have any thoughts there about the ETN situation with the Jags?
Yeah, the thing with ETN, I think, is he's a speed guy. He's not as shifty as people thought he was, or he didn't show shiftiness on film either. He was that running back that if he got outside and then had a defender in his face, he would try to spin out of it, but that's a problem as well because you're exposing your back as a running back. But he's not as shifty as some of these other backs. Excuse me. And I think he is. I think the foot, being hurt last year and being out, it's again, you're talking about an injury that he was away from football for the whole year. I think he's just now getting back into it. Even though him and Lawrence had a connection, for 3 years at Clemson, it's still going to take a little bit of time. Again, new coaching staff, new playbook. It's taken that whole team a good bit of time. I'm not giving up on Travis Etienne by no means. And
No.
I think there's going to be, and I think they saw that in practice as well, and that's why they were able to go, okay, we can let James Robinson ride. They got Jermichael Hasty back there as well, so I think that Travis Etienne is going to take a good bit of the work there and be just fine.
Agreed. So with that being said, let's go ahead and kick it into the Chrome Dome parlays. Even though Brian is not here with that Chrome Dome, we still got the Chrome Dome parlays of the week. As per usual, I'm going to leave it to the experts who actually get to play in parlays a little more than I do, since I am in a state that does not allow that. I don't have a lot of great insight, so I will let that be taken away by Jay. So have at it, sir.
Yeah, so we're going to play a little bit of it's going to be rough tonight again with the weather. So I originally was going over on Trevor Lawrence's it was actually at 224.5. And it's actually the lines moved up to 226.5 passing. And I was going to go over. Now I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under 226.5 passing. Especially now getting that news that the weather's going to come in sooner than the second half. So yeah, I'm going to go under there. ETN, I was looking at his rushing numbers. Like I said earlier, his rushing number, and again, I'm looking at underdog, so y'all can play right along with me. His rushing yards, 70.5 are very, very interesting, but I'm going to push it a little bit more, and I'm going to go ahead and do 87.5 rushing and receiving total, and I'm going to go over right there because I think that can be something that would be definitely playable. Because I'm giving 17 more yards, 17.5 more yards roughly, or 17 more yards roughly, and I can get that even rushing. So I think I'm still safe there at 87.5. The Evan Ingram has been getting peppered. Peppers. I don't even know if peppered's the right word, to be quite honest. He is getting just about everything thrown to him that Trevor Lawrence can pick up, and that includes the kitchen sink the last couple of games. I mean, he's gotten listen to this. Since their bye week in week 11, okay, they played Baltimore at home. Evan Ingram got one target, caught that ball. The next week he played at Detroit. That was the week that they just got blown out. He got 7 targets, caught 5 of them. Well, then they figured out, okay, well, Evan Ingram does know how to catch the ball again. We saw it in college. We didn't see it. We saw it the first year in New York, and then we haven't really seen Evan Ingram catch the ball. So then the next 2 weeks at Tennessee, 15 targets, catches 11 of them, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns. Last week, 10 targets, catches 8. Now, he didn't have the touchdown, only 62 yards. But, I mean, just in the last 2 weeks, he's gotten 25 targets. That's more targets than most wide receivers are getting in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm going, and I'm looking at it right now just to be 100% sure. His line, 4 receptions, and it's got to be all weather related, but they can come out there and do that in the first drive. So give me over on Evan Ingram. Now, if he gets it in the first quarter, we should be okay.
Right.
If he doesn't get 4 receptions in the first quarter, that's probably going to be a busted bet. So I'm banking that they're going to come out knowing the weather's coming. They're going to try to throw the ball as quick as they can, get down the field, get a couple scores before they have to, result is running the ball the rest of the game. So that's the one there. And then the only other one I would add to it is, and of course, underdog does not do the anytime that I have found yet. But Garrett Wilson anytime touchdown, if you can add that on there, that would be phenomenal. But speaking of the underdog, we have some special stuff coming this offseason. I do believe that we will get into with underdog, and it's going to be fun for all the Gambit listeners.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of stuff in the fire going right now. It's going to be a lot of fun once we will announce some of this stuff. So looking forward to that. And also regarding Evan Ingram, I like all these over-unders that we have here with the parlays. So good job on that as well. But, Evan Ingram does have a pretty juicy matchup for the playoffs here. He has the Jets this week, and then he has Houston next week. So could potentially, help you out here as we push for the fantasy championship. So keep an eye on him. If you have him, fire him up. If you maybe want to buy low on him, I think you might be able to make something happen there. So with that being said, that is it for us today. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Jay, let people know what's going on with you, where they can find you, all that type of good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me like right here. That's where you're finding me right now. Thursday nights, 7 o'clock on the Gambit. On Wednesday nights, I am over on Fantasy Intervention, where we do a lot more redraft there as well. But you can find me in the Discord. You can at me in the Discord. You can at me on Twitter. Drop a DM, whatever. That is at FantasyJ77. Spell out the J, Fantasy JAY77. Yeah, hit me in the DMs. My DMs are open. Start sit questions. Trade questions, anything like that. Now, I'm not the end all be all. Don't take it that way. I just give you my recommendation, and then we go from there. But I am a voice that you can actually bounce stuff off of, and we can argue, not argue, but we can discuss it back and forth. And you can go, well, Jason, you suck. I'm doing my way. And I'm like, all right, cool. At least you got it out of your system.
Right. Yep. I will echo that same exact thing. You can reach me at Devin Beal on Twitter. I actually have had a couple of people reach out to me regarding some trades. So I appreciate everyone reaching out. Like I said, just like to give my opinion on it. Hopefully it works out for you, but I try to give you the best analysis I can there on what the trade is, long-term effects, everything like that. So I am also in the Discord, so you can hit me up in there as well. That's free for everybody to join. So we tweet out that link pretty frequently. So if you're wondering where it's at, I'm sure you'll be able to find a link here shortly. You can search any of our Twitter pages and see it. So we'll, keep that going, join that in. And then next week we will be back for the fantasy championships for about 90% of the playoff formats out there. So thanks again for joining everybody this week on the Dynasty Gambit, and we will see you next week.